Good morning. This is Business Talks. You can see we've had a bit of a rebrand, can't you? Remember, we were Tech Talks. Thing with Tech Talks is that it's got to be about tech. And remember, I used to always have to say, you're going to have to start talking about technical stuff here because I'm going to get wrong. So what we did was we've rebranded. We can now have Business Talks. And that means we can speak to anyone, which is awesome because we've got some fantastic businesses here in South Tyneside. And we've got a really good one for you today. We've got Roger Marsh. Let me get his job title here for you. Commercial and Business Development Director at IQA Elecnor. Roger's going to tell us about the company coming into the region and what that journey's been like. So without no further ado, let me throw you in, Roger. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, everyone.
I'll tell you what we can do. Let's put our names up there. There you go.
Very good.
I know it is good, isn't it? We've got all these little bits of tech here, and what we're hoping to do is we're going to get people to comment because we're live now over Facebook, YouTube, maybe Twitter. Yeah, I think we are. Don't look worried, Roger. It's fine, right? They're a friendly bunch. Honestly, they're a friendly bunch. There's our Misha there saying the mic sounds good, so we'll sound okay. Your lighting looks good. We're happy. We're good to go. We're live. So if anybody wants to ask Roger anything across the session, please feel free to jump on. I'm guessing this could be our Lindsay from Invest South Tyneside team. So yes, ask Roger anything. He said he's got a multitude of knowledge. You can ask him anything you want. He will answer it. Isn't that right, Roger?
Absolutely. Yep.
How about you tell us who we are, Roger? Who is the man?
Morning. I've been in my current industry, telecoms, for the last 20 plus years. Previously to that, I've been in a number of industries globally in the role of procurement, contracts, commercial, which is very much what I set out to do. From sort of leaving school through college and university, I'd wanted always to be in sort of procurement, and I've pursued that. And after 30 plus years now working, I'm glad to say that I'm still in the industry. I wouldn't have stayed in if I wasn't passionate about what I've done and with the companies I've done it with. I'd like to say that I've done companies fairly long term, and then I've jumped on and done some troubleshooting and project specific transformation roles, and I've actually enjoyed every single one. So I'm passionate about. I enjoy working, which doesn't mean to say every day, but generally, I'm a big fan of the principle that you've got to work for 2/3 of your life, so you might as well enjoy it. I have a big family, and certainly I'm passing on my experience and my and hopefully some of my knowledge to the next generation, both through the family and through the people that I'm working with. And again, whatever I've done as well, I'm obviously proud to work with some really, really talented people as well.
Where do you hail from, Roger?
I'm a bit of a mongrel, actually.
Because that's not a Geordie accent, my friend.
No, I was born in Australia and to Welsh parents who emigrated, then came back and lived in Liverpool and was educated in Liverpool, then London. Then I've worked overseas for quite a few years, and now I reside, or my family are in Wiltshire, and at the moment in the week I'm looking for somewhere in the middle of Newcastle, and when my youngest is through school, we'll look to settle somewhere up in the northeast.
South Shields, Roger, that's where it's at. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting that you say that you're down in Wiltshire, because is the head office down there of the organisation?
No, I mean, Elecnor, IQA is parent company is Elecnor. They've been trading for 60 years. Their head office is in Madrid.
Okay.
And it's a shame that we weren't able to go to the football, because I would have coincided a trip to the Madrid office with going to the Liverpool game this week. Not that I was a big fan of the result, but unfortunately we're not encouraged to travel right now because of COVID.
When you say we, Roger, did you mean me and you, or are we going to get the budget from South Tyneside to take me over to Madrid? And
absolutely. No? Well, there's a lot of unspent budget, I'm sure, in plenty of businesses right now that to avoid tax, and maybe that's something that's going to happen. And if it's not going to happen overseas, then inward investment into the UK is always good. But no, the main office is in Heaven. They just moved to larger premises, but the IQA business in the UK has been, over the last few years, has been primarily around power. They've got good clients, Scottish Power, and they're doing some work in North Wales and Liverpool as well, which is ironic because obviously I've been to and know those areas very well. But yeah, we've got a yard and a warehouse and an office suite in Newcastle, and then we're just opening another yard for the build in North Tyneside, and then we're hopefully looking to get something going in Gateshead Q3 this year.
You mentioned lots of towns and cities and regions there, Roger. But it's probably best to tell us what's going on in these places. What are you guys tasked to do? So
I think everyone has heard and is experiencing good or bad cover, but generally fibre broadband in the UK is not where it should be. There's government drives to get the major cities and towns with a minimum of, they're looking for gigabit coverage, but recently, it's been announced that there's an extension of the drive with a fund to get to more rural towns and villages. So you've got City Fibre, Openreach, and Virgin are the big fibre to the home operators that are pushing these networks out as fast as they can. But then you've got other altnets coming up, and you've got the likes of GigaClear and Hyperoptic, who are focusing more on businesses and MDUs, which is multiple dwelling units. And so I think everyone's pushing to get broadband out to everyone at a pace based upon the targets we've been given. So IQA, we secured a contract award for Newcastle from City Fibre to build 138,000 homes, or connect 138,000 homes rather, in the Newcastle area. Subsequent award for North Tyneside, which we just started building in, was about just over 100,000, and then Gateshead is scheduled to start later this year, and that's about 120,000. So the contract that IQA has just with City Fibre, and we do have other clients that we're starting to develop in terms of other altnets and ISPs. There's a good 360,000 homes to be connected in the northeast area, which we're thrilled to be a major part of, and a City Fibre main build contractor. And the upside from that as well is that City Fibre are obviously essentially the main contractor, and IQA are a tier one, but we have a very small in-house presence in terms of FT, fixed term employees, and permanent staff, because we pretty much outsource everything to agencies with direct labour for gangs and material supplies, and then we have a number of subcontractors helping us with the build, and all our drive is to get those as locally as possible, because in our experience, we've had gangs and subcontractors coming in from further away, and it's it gets very complicated if we're not getting people from the local area, and there is a good talent pool in 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 the northeast and South Tyneside. So we're keen to explore that further.
In terms of that talent pool, then, Roger, IQA, what does it actually do? Which part of the getting the fibre to the house does it actually do? Everything end to end, or
pretty much. So we start with design, which then involves a pre-walkout and the design, and then a walkout when the design's approved for build. So the work scope then effectively is everything from permitting to scheduling. Then normally our preference would be the civils come in, and whether that's running the fibre from the what they call is primary nodes, and we connect the fibre from FEXs, which is the fibre exchanges, and run them through a series of primary nodes, secondary nodes, all the way to the premises. So the two phases of fibre installation are essentially the civils build, which is cutting the roads and opening up track and putting the fibre in and testing it. And then you've got the other one is using existing ducts that BT infrastructure has, OpenReach. And then the other option is, if ducts are full or if we can't get civils works in, we'll look at aerial route to get to fibre to the premises. So it's everything from design through to connectivity, and then as built, and ideally payment.
So that sounds pretty much end to end. Where do you start, Roger? Obviously the design is going to be, it doesn't have to be done at the coal face. You can do that back at the office kind of thing. But where do you start bringing in the talent pool to actually to actually get hands on? Where do you start trying to pull these people together?
I think what happened when IQA secured the contract for the build in the northeast, it was a very small team. It was probably 6 people. I'd say that was the back end of 2019. We've now risen internally to about 150 people, and that's a mix of management and then administration, and then we have subject matter experts and specialists in terms of quality, safety, and then planning is a big one for us, as you can imagine. So fibre, civils, telecom, infrastructure, construction work is quite specialist. So finding the right people, that hits that sweet spot is always going to be a challenge, because the OpenReach are after the similar types of people. So are Virgin, and so are people that are coming through other tier ones as IQA are, and that's why rates and salaries are particularly high at the moment because of the huge demand. It is a seller's market right now. So we try to attract people. We've got a number of programs going on. Well, if we have experienced people in places, we're bringing in people that we can put through Kickstart. We've got people just arriving now. We've got apprenticeship scheme. We bring in the grads. So I'm very much a big fan of succession planning, and sort of, I wouldn't say future-proof the organisation, but we'd like to develop people's talents, and we do put people on training courses. Even then, with 140, 150 of us, it's still a relatively small team as it stands. But what we have is quite a good core, and we just need to expand that core with a similar type of people. But that doesn't mean to say we're stuck in a certain way of working, because we this business, telecoms, is generally very innovative as well. So we need to always try and think 1 or 2 steps ahead of where this technology and where the clients may or may not go. So we do look after, and we do provide training, and it's fully funded for multiple disciplines. For example, I've got 4 QSs in my team, and good young talent. We need a few more. but we do look after them, and we put them through college as well, and that team is not the only one that we invest in. More particular where it comes to the work itself, and we're only as good as the people that are they're digging the track and hanging the wires. We do have training schools as well, so I would encourage people to there's a huge demand for people, for example, like fiber splicers or people that have got good gangs or have done some civils works, because the principles across all the utilities are very similar. But we are investing in training ourselves in terms of training how to install and fiber splice from the cabinet through to the homes, and then obviously there's a big market that a lot of people haven't thought about yet is in maintaining these networks after they've been built and commissioned, because the last thing you want is a network going down and then you don't have a service engineer out there, because we're, as we probably all know, we're all highly dependent on the internet now and connectivity 24 hours a day.
You touched upon like skill sets, Roger, and bringing people in, but do you also subcontract as well? So you want a supply chain to come and help bolster this? Is that what you're looking for as well?
Indeed. We have a direct labour pool, so we have gangs coming through from agencies. It works on quite a simple model, which is day rate. But what we'd like to move to, and we are in the process of moving to a more subcontracted sort of tier 2 model. Call it a sort of a more of a managed service program. So we'd like partners, our subcontract partners, now to come in and be able to look at taking a lot of that off us, and we effectively then manage up to the client, and we leave the end-to-end management of the build, based on capability assessments and based on work experience. We don't just give work out to any subcontractors, but with that model, we feel that there can be more ownership given to and more management and less handoffs and risk in a model with build partners coming in and subcontractors supporting us with the build. We've got, as I said, we've got a lot of connections. Of the 360 odd thousand homes we have to connect, I'd say right now we're probably at just over 10%. So there's a 5-7 year build here at least, across all 3 cities. We currently got about, I'd say, four subcontractors in for Newcastle, and started Gateshead later in the year, and it's just started North Tyneside with one subcontractor. But we'd like to have more discussions with certainly more local in area companies that can help us with the subcontract model on a long-term basis as well, because we think there's more work coming from this client that we can pursue.
Does the resource available affect the timescale, Roger? So I think you said there you've got like 6 or 7 years. If you can resource this, fuller, could you shorten that timescale and get more homes receiving broadband quicker?
Yeah, you can, because with the likes of City Fibre and Openreach and Virgin, all in the northeast as well, they're only as good as quick they can get customers on these networks. So you will see announcements that, for example, ISP Zen is one that's come on to Newcastle, who are so we've got a big push to where they want to get customers in a particular street or a location. We've got to make sure that network is built in time for them to do letter drops and complete what customer connections are required based on the obligations that they've set forth in the public domain. So City Fibre, again, they outsource the build, so there's a dependency on us to deliver for them, and then we outsource it to the tier 2s or our build partners as well, so there's a dependency on there. So I think the CEO of City Fibre last year was on TV and made a statement about boots on the ground, 10,000 people, bigger, better, faster, and I think we try to embody that. But there is a run rate expectancy in terms of meterage, or it's called RFS. So these are the homes ready for service, ready to connect. I think we've looked at accelerating before, and I think accelerating without doing proper due diligence is always a risk. So, I think if we can get more gangs and more subcontractors taking responsibilities for complete build areas, not just a few nodes, then there's on the right business model, then there is potential to go quicker. But if I was ever going to look at more acceleration, it'd have to be controlled and pre-agreed, and properly measured, because as I said, there's a customer base out there, i.e. everyone that owns a home, that's at the end of this. So we've got to be really careful.
Obviously, you're trying to expand at pace, Roger, to meet those deadlines, meet the client expectations, and meet demand from the consumers at the end of the day. What impact does that have on the business, Roger, in terms of trying to grow quickly? I'm coming from getting the right people in, and maintaining the right culture, environment, that kind of thing.
I think, as I said, we have a parent company, Spanish parent company, Elecnor, and they obviously have requirements as well from a corporate point of view. An ideal parent's going to push you to go and deliver projects, get paid, make sure it's under budget, and ensure that we're following certain governance and processes. I think with this particular build, with the IQA build for City Fibre and other ISPs, the danger is, and this is something that I've seen before, because I used to work for City Fibre before I came to IQA, so it's sometimes it's poacher come gamekeeper, but it's very much down to that dependency on if you go too quickly and you don't have the structure and you don't have the right people. Certainly in my experience so far, in this middle management layer, and the back office, and then have a plan that pretty much you don't deviate from. Expanding and going too aggressively it really is a high risk strategy for us, because, as I said, because of the speed at which this market moves at, and the dependency and the publicity that goes with going too quickly, or then having to slow down when if you've committed to a schedule or an area of work being completed, and then you have to reconsider or rebaseline it. It's not good for the business, and it's certainly not good for the reputations, and it's not good for what we're trying to do for the British household.
In terms of the design and the engineering of it, and what are typical kind of pitfalls when you're putting a project in? What kind of gets stuck in the way? What are the things where you think, and maybe environmental issues or anything like that? What do you come across where it can actually halt the project?
Well, fortunately, where we're building, there's very few great crested newts, because they're more akin to the railway networks. But the principles are the same. I think getting design, a good design of, for example, from where we're going to place a fibre exchange. And a fibre exchange, just to give you some scale, is about 40,000 connections or THP, which is a premises count, basically. So for Newcastle, if it's 140,000, that's 3 fexes, because we might be able to get the full coverage out of 3 fexes. So design from there outwards, and then sequencing work. But what's critical is that when we have the boundaries for the area, that the people, parties responsible for doing the design are out walking the route, because there's a lot of design companies out there, and people are very keen, because of the prices, to still offshore a lot of work to other countries. You can't, with these networks, you've got to walk the streets. You can't do a desktop survey. You can't do a desktop walkout. You just can't do that without seeing where it is, because I've seen designs, believe it or not, when I was within City Fibre in other cities. Fortunately, I haven't seen it in Newcastle or North Tyneside yet, where somebody hadn't walked out, and they decided that the good design was to put a pole in the middle of the canal, and obviously that's not going to work. And then I saw a route in another location that had gone right across a football field, and I'm not talking about Sunday League. It's our Premiership. It was something right in the middle, Division 1 or something, and it's just things like that that are critical, because the client picks up on that. Obviously, I think my youngest son could pick up on that, and then it just takes time to go back round. But then confidence is obviously knocked. So it's getting the design locked in. Without design locked in and walked out and completely understood. For example, we in Newcastle Centre we do there's a lot of streets there with are historic, and we get a lot of more residential streets have a lot of cars, and you've got to plan for when you're building, those cars can't be there because your route's going to go right down normally the curbside or on the verge. So it's things like that. It needs a lot of thought before we even put a spade in the ground.
What about some if you're doing buildings, you've obviously got these kind of protected buildings and stuff. Do you find that with like cobbled streets or anything like that you've got to kind of navigate around, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're a little bit tricky, and we try and stay off them. I move towards the pavements because there is historic. We had Heritage England involved recently because we were around something that was very historic, and I don't think it was quite Hadrian's Wallish, but there was there's very strict restrictions, as there are, believe it or not, around large trees down streets that have TPOs, tree protection orders. So you can't even scratch the roots. So you need to be mindful of that. But I think it's you can't have all on all cities where we're building and where City Fibre and the other operators are building. You're not going to have streets like Milton Keynes, which is a relatively easy place to build because it's the streets there are new, pretty much all concrete or tarmac, and they crisscross like American streets. But I think the impact as well, if you're not managing these different potentially historic or difficult road surfaces properly, it can completely bring the build to a halt, because if you can't reinstate exactly as it is, because residents can be pretty funny. Yeah, they do want networks, but they don't like the streets being dug up.
Yeah.
But you do have to be careful. I was aware of another build company in the west, a building in Chester, which I know very well because I grew up around there. And they knocked down they knocked a big section out of the Roman wall. Well, how do you rebuild that? But it completely stopped the program, and that's very costly because you get into the damages and penalties.
Yeah. So obviously the technology is very cutting edge. How do you ensure that we can future-proof these projects going forward, and it's not going to be out of vogue in very short time scale?
I mean, obviously we put enough capacity, enough fiber into the ground that there is nobody that 1 gigabit or gigabit of download speed is massive. I'm not sure people working from home would require any more than that. Obviously, people don't like the roads being dug up, and where technology is going, we're not quite sure yet. I mean, I think the big thing here is to get all of the country connected. Obviously, everyone's not going to be at similar speeds, but get as much speed as we can out to obviously the towns and cities, and then now to villages and rural communities. So I think if they can get that and keep developing technology, everybody wants things downloaded larger and faster. But I'm not sure, as I said, how much more speed people will actually need. I think what they need is reliability of continuous connection, and that's why after the networks have been installed, they need to be properly managed through network operating centers, or they need to be handed over, as I said, to first line maintenance companies who can go out and make sure that the services, if it is disconnected, it still has the resilience to because some of these, if if a connection goes down nearer the primary node or secondary node, you could knock out a few houses, not just one house. So it's very important that whatever's in the ground is protected, and then we can squeeze as much capacity out of it and then look to innovate going forward.
I think you've said a few times there about the expansion of IQA, in terms of different sites around the country, and then, them particular sites then expanding with workforce. And let's talk about the elephant in the room, Roger. How, you've tried to grow these in the middle of a pandemic. What's been the impact on the business?
I think, when it was first announced a year ago, just over a year ago, everybody went into lockdown. We kind of prepped for that and had this, when I was at City Fibre, they had a Project Halo where people had to report in. But I think very quickly, what became apparent was that, we were given, the government gave a number of companies, utilities, and infrastructure companies, key worker status, which meant, that you carried a card with you, and delivery, all the branding was adjusted to put key worker over there. So we were able to get in, for example, some builds are extremely busy areas, and certainly for the first few months, I think the big impact for us was the councils, because obviously they weren't working as quickly because they shut up shop, and having done a bit of work in the civil service myself, that they're sort of fixed to their desks with desktop computers and desktop phones, and they getting permitting through did, across the whole country, did slow down. But the upside was where we were, where we did have permitted work, we didn't have as much obstruction. So, for example, around schools and business parks and shopping centres, we were able to get in and do, difficult work that may have taken, 4 or 5 weeks to complete. We were able to get in there and in a couple of weeks and get out, and without too much invasion. I think the only the contrary to that, though, was that you had a lot of people at home, and where we were down residential streets, they didn't like their streets being dug up, and lots of noise of of cutters and tarmackers and people with heavy machinery, and during their furloughing time, it was too noisy. So again, back to the fact that people would are crying out for good network speeds, but at the same time, they weren't too chuffed. And by the way, I can sympathise with some of them that they were having their road dug up, especially in the summer. And as I said, even 2 weeks work, 2 weeks outside your doorstep is a long time to be working. But yeah, I think with that we managed it very well. I think IQA, what they did was essentially was to do some spacing, because they were key workers who did have to come into the offices. But what they did, they rotated people around. So come in for a week, work from home for a week. City Fibre closed most of their office, and everybody went to home working unless you were working in the field. And I think that was fairly common. But I seem to recall Openreach, they decided to stop their build for a while, and I think Virgin did as well. But their build is a little bit more large scale than City Fibre build was.
So you've relocated here, or you've located here. What can we do for you, Roger? So anyone watching or listening back to this on catch up or live, what would be your call to action? What would be your request if you could engage with the business community or the residents? Is there anything we could help you with? Yeah,
I think just supporting what we're doing is great. I mean, I know we're getting to get across 360,000 homes, or even let's call it 250,000 homes in the northeast area, is going to be a challenge over the next couple of years, and we are going to be going into streets. I mean, I wish I could share all the designs of where we're going so people could see and we could plan in advance. But we do letter drops, well in advance of where we're working. So I think it's just be patient. I think with the businesses, we are looking to connect, as I said, every premise in the UK, and I think what I'd be interested to learn is if anybody is interested in if they've got the subcontract capability that we talk about, I'll happily have a discussion with that, and obviously if there's anybody else that wants to reach out. But I think we are coming. It is going to be a couple of years before 140,000 homes get gigabit speeds. But keep an eye out for the ISPs coming in. They've got good packages. If people are dependent on certain rates from certain incumbents at the moment, there is a lot of good variety coming. And whether you go and you switch or compare the market, and just check the fiber speeds in your area. And we obviously we can't reprioritize to get everybody to the top of the list. But again, if people want to share, if people would like me to share where where we're going with the next certainly year, with our plan this year is to complete at least, I'd say, 37 to 40,000 THP just in Newcastle. North Tyneside is probably about 20,000. So there will be growth there. So yeah, I mean, help us where you can by keeping an eye out for us, and we're always interested if there's work going on and it's not as it seems, and it could be done better. Then obviously we do take on lessons learned, and we do take on the feedback we do get from customers and the community.
And did you do a meet the buyer event, Roger, where you were meeting with stakeholders or potential suppliers on?
We did one at City Fibre, but that's primarily for the tier twos. I think it's something that I've done it before in other industries, which work quite well, because I'm a firm believer in having really good networks and investing in the people, in the relationships, because the contracts are great and the business case and pricing is really good, and a schedule's good, but this is very much a service-led business that we're in right now, and it has to essentially evolve around the people. But no, I think we will do one at some point. Hence, that's when we are looking. I think we did a small tender weeks ago for subcontractors to come in and go through the pre-qualification process, and then look to tender for work, which is based upon a set of rates and a schedule, and ideally a plan that works, that doesn't have poles in canals or trenches in football pitches. And it's something that we'll consider, especially, as I said, we're 10% through the build, and we've got 90% left, and as I'd firmly believe that our solution, our key to success, is in that relationship and with subcontractors, support of the local business community and the local public people in the area. But yeah, I mean, if it comes down to it, we can do it fairly quickly, and there's enough interest, then I'd rather do something large scale when you can message out, rather than doing 5-10 rounds of tendering and you still don't get the end result. It's easier to do it at scale, and then you narrow down to the work and to your partnership model.
Great stuff. Well, there is a fantastic talent pool here in South Tyneside, and of course a great business community as well, which will support you, but also we kind of collaborate and support each other from a personal point of view, mentorship, picking up the phone, grabbing a coffee, that kind of thing. The support is fantastic here in South Tyneside. So, Roger, thank you so much for your time. Exciting times. I'm really excited about this, because we need this. Everybody's clamoring for the fastest connection they can possibly get. So, watch this space. So thanks, Roger. And no doubt we'll see you on the circuit, because you'll be doing a lot more engaging with the business community, I would imagine, over the next
indeed.
And
if anybody would like any further information or would like to connect, then I'm on LinkedIn, and if there's any further details required, we can talk with Ian and get some more information out. It might be useful for me to post something as well in terms of backing what we've just said. And as I said, I'd encourage anybody to come to talk to us with resourcing and any services in the local area, because we do listen and have a good conversation. And as I said, if nothing more, it's another contact in your networks.
Perfect. Well said. Okay, Roger, thanks so much for your time, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great weekend.
There you go. That was Roger Marsh from IQA. So our next guest is, not today, obviously. You know, I want to have a cup of tea, right? But our next guest, I think, Lindsay, let me tell you, 14th of May, it's our Eddie from Cell Pack Solutions. So that's going to be jam-packed with a lot of stories. Eddie's probably trying to get me on to talk about chess, which I know nothing about. So make sure you're watching that. There you go, look. There's our Lindsay, pop that in. I'll try not to say Eddie's surname. No, I always get it wrong. So looking forward to speaking to Eddie on the 14th of May, and I'm looking forward for you guys joining us. Thanks so much for your time. It's been great. We're now Business Talks. If you want to maybe talk about your business, you could reach out, and we might get you on the show next time. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the 14th of May.